The perfect illusion. Welcome to Twisted Heartstrings. I'm so glad you're here with me today. Please like this video and subscribe to the channel so you never miss a story. Listen till the end and let me know in the comments which city you're watching from. I love seeing how far these stories travel. A life built on canvas. My name is Emma Clark, and for 15 years I believed I was living a fairy tale. I own the most successful art gallery in downtown Seattle, a beautiful space called Clark Contemporary that my mother had helped me open when I was just 30 years old. The exposed brick walls, the high ceilings with perfect lighting, the polished concrete floors that echoed with the footsteps of art lovers every weekend. It was my dream come true. I met Daniel at the gallery's opening night. He was an architect, tall and charming, with silver starting to thread through his dark hair even then. He stood in front of an abstract painting for 20 minutes, just staring at it. Most people glanced and moved on, but Daniel really looked, really saw. When he finally turned to me and said, "This piece understands loneliness," I knew he was different. We married a year later in a small ceremony at the Seattle Japanese Garden. My mother cried happy tears. Daniel's parents flew in from Boston and told me I was the daughter they'd always wanted. Everything felt right. Everything felt perfect. Our home was a modern waterfront property that Daniel had designed himself. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked Puget Sound. In the mornings, we'd drink coffee on the deck and watch the ferries cross the water. In the evenings, we'd cook together, sharing wine and stories from our day. He'd tell me about his building projects. I'd tell him about the artists I was working with. 15 years of this. 15 years of what I thought was happiness. The first crack in the frame. It started small, the way these things always do. Daniel began taking more business trips. As a senior architect at Morrison & Associates, travel wasn't unusual, but the frequency increased. Once a month became twice a month. Twice a month became every other week. "Big project in Vancouver," he'd say, kissing my forehead as he packed his bag. "The client is demanding, but the commission is huge." "Another meeting in Portland," he'd explain, his fingers flying across his phone screen. "The investors want updates every few days." I trusted him. Why wouldn't I? In 15 years, he'd never given me a reason not to. But then came the Tuesday that changed everything. I was at the gallery, unpacking a new shipment of sculptures from a talented young artist named Marcus Chun. My assistant, Sophie, brought me the mail. Among the usual invoices and art magazines was a credit card statement for an account I didn't recognize. It was addressed to our house, but the card belonged to Daniel. A card I'd never seen. My hands trembled as I opened it. The charges made my stomach turn. Expensive restaurants I'd never been to. A hotel in Seattle, not Vancouver, not Portland, but here in our own city. A jewelry store purchase for $3,000. I hadn't received any jewelry. The weight of suspicion. I didn't confront him that night. Something held me back. Maybe it was fear. Maybe it was the same instinct that had helped me build a successful business. The instinct to gather information before making a move. Instead, I watched him. Really watched him, the way he used to watch that painting on our opening night. Daniel came home late, claiming he'd been working on project proposals. But his shirt smelled like perfume. Not my perfume. Something sweeter, younger, more expensive. "Rough day?" I asked, keeping my voice light. "Exhausting," he said, loosening his tie. "I think I'll take a shower and head to bed." He didn't kiss me. He used to always kiss me when he came home. That weekend, Daniel said he needed to run errands. I told him I had paperwork to catch up on at the gallery. But instead, I sat in my car outside our house and waited. 30 minutes later, he emerged, got in his car, and drove away. I followed him, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might break through my chest. He didn't go to the hardware store or the gym. He drove to a coffee shop in Capitol Hill, parked, and went inside. Through the window, I watched him meet a woman. She was young, maybe late 20s, with long blonde hair and a confident smile. She kissed him on the mouth. Not a friendly peck. A real kiss. A lover's kiss. They sat together for an hour, holding hands across the table, laughing at private jokes. She showed him something on her phone, and he grinned. That same grin he used to give me. I drove back home before he did, my vision blurred with tears. I sat in our perfect living room, in our perfect house, and realized that my perfect life was a lie. The hidden truth. I couldn't eat. I couldn't sleep. For 3 days, I moved through my life like a ghost. At the gallery, Sophie kept asking if I was feeling okay. I told her I thought I was coming down with something. That wasn't entirely untrue. I was sick. Sick with betrayal. Sick with heartbreak. Sick with the terrible knowledge that the man I'd built my life with was building a different life without me. On Thursday evening, Daniel said he had to work late at the office. I nodded, kissed his cheek, and told him not to work too hard. 20 minutes after he left, I did something I'd never done before. I went into his car. His precious BMW was parked in our garage, sleek and black, and probably hiding secrets. I searched the glove compartment first. Registration, insurance papers, a handful of receipts. Nothing unusual. Then I checked under the seats. My fingers touched something hard and rectangular. I pulled it out. A second phone. A phone I'd never seen before. My hands shook so badly I almost dropped it. The screen lit up when I pressed the button. No password. No security. He'd been so confident that I'd never find it. The text messages appeared, and with each one I read, a piece of my heart broke away. Vanessa, can't wait until we don't have to hide any more red heart. Daniel, soon, baby. I promise. Just need to handle some things first. Vanessa, you're still going to leave her, right? You promised. Daniel, of course. Emma and I have been over for years. She just doesn't know it yet. I scrolled back further. Months of messages. Hundreds of them. Photos of them together. Plans for their future. A future that apparently didn't include me. But the message that made my blood run cold was from 2 weeks ago. Daniel, met with Richard today. He says we can argue mental instability. Emma's been so stressed with the gallery. We document it, build a case, and I can get the business and the divorce. Vanessa, the gallery? I thought that was hers. Daniel, on paper, yes. But I've invested so much money into it over the years. My lawyer thinks we can prove it's really a joint asset. Plus, with the right strategy, we can show she's not capable of running it properly. I've already started creating the documentation. Vanessa, you're brilliant. I can't wait to be with you for real. No more sneaking around. Daniel, just a few more months. Then we'll have everything we want. The house, the gallery, everything. She won't know what hit her. I sat in that car for 2 hours, reading every message, looking at every photo, understanding the full scope of his betrayal. This wasn't just an affair. This was a calculated plan to destroy me and steal everything I'd worked for. The moment of clarity. I should have been crying. I should have been screaming. I should have smashed that phone into 1,000 pieces. Instead, something cold and clear settled over me. Something I'd never felt before. My mother had once told me that the best artists know when to step back from the canvas. When to stop reacting emotionally and start seeing the bigger picture. When to plan each brushstroke carefully instead of throwing paint in anger. I put the phone back exactly where I'd found it. I went into the house. I made myself a cup of tea, and I started to think. Daniel thought I was weak. He thought I was easy to manipulate. He thought that after 15 years of marriage, I'd be so broken by his betrayal that I wouldn't be able to fight back. He was wrong. The gallery wasn't just mine on paper. My mother had been smart. When she'd helped me open Clark Contemporary, she'd put it in an irrevocable trust with me as the sole beneficiary. Daniel had invested money over the years, yes. But those were gifts, not investments. The gallery legally belonged to me, and me alone. No divorce court in the world could take it from me. Daniel didn't know this. His lawyer didn't know this. They thought they had a winning strategy. They had no idea what was coming. I picked up my phone and called my best friend, Maya Rodriguez. She was a forensic accountant, someone who traced money for a living, who uncovered financial crimes, who saw patterns that others missed. Maya, I said when she answered, I need your help, and I need you to keep this completely confidential. Emma, what's wrong? You sound strange. I found out Daniel is having an affair, and he's planning to divorce me and take the gallery. There was a long pause. Then Maya's voice turned sharp and professional. Tell me everything. And I mean everything. I talked for an hour. I told her about the credit card statement, the secret phone, the messages, the plan. Maya listened without interrupting, and I could hear her typing notes. When I finished, she said, Emma, listen to me very carefully. Don't confront him. Don't let him know you know anything. Can you do that? Can you pretend everything is normal? I think so. Why? Because if he thinks he's getting away with it, he'll get careless. He'll make mistakes. And every mistake he makes is evidence we can use. I'm going to start digging into your financial records tomorrow. If he's been siphoning money, and trust me, cheaters always siphon money, I'll find it. What do I do in the meantime? You act like the wife he thinks you are. Sweet. Trusting. A little bit naive. Let him think his plan is working. Can you do that? I thought about all the times I'd hung art shows, managing dozens of details at once. All the difficult artists I'd handled with patience and grace. All the tough negotiations I'd won with gallery collectors. Yes, I said. I can do that. Good. Because Emma, when we're done with him, Daniel is going to regret the day he decided to betray you. After we hung up, I sat in the silence of our perfect living room. Outside the windows, the lights of Seattle sparkled across the water. Inside, everything looked exactly as it always had. But I was different now. I wasn't the trusting wife anymore. I wasn't the woman who could be manipulated and discarded. I was a woman with a plan. When Daniel came home at midnight, smelling like perfume and lies, I smiled at him from the couch. "How was work, honey?" I asked. "Exhausting," he said, "but productive." "I'm glad," I said, and I meant it. Because every day he thought he was winning was another day I was planning. Another day I was building my case. Another day closer to the moment when his perfect plan would collapse. The game had begun, and Daniel had no idea that he'd already lost. The next morning, I woke up next to a stranger. Oh, Daniel looked the same. Same face on the pillow next to mine. Same slight snore. Same way he reached for his phone before he even opened his eyes. But I knew the truth now. The man I'd loved for 15 years was gone. Maybe he'd never really existed at all. I made coffee like I always did. I kissed his cheek when he left for work like I always did. I told him to have a great day like I always did. But inside, I was counting. Counting every lie. Counting every day until I could be free. Maya came to the gallery that afternoon. To anyone watching, we were just two friends having coffee in my office. But the laptop she opened was full of spreadsheets and financial records. "Okay," she said, pushing her glasses up her nose. "I started with your joint accounts. Emma, he's been moving money. Small amounts at first, then bigger. Over the past 18 months, roughly $85,000 has disappeared from your shared savings." My coffee cup stopped halfway to my mouth. 85,000. Transferred to an account in his name only. He's been doing it slowly enough that you wouldn't notice the individual transactions, but when you look at the pattern. She turned the laptop toward me. The graph showed a steady downward slope. He's been planning this for a long time. I stared at the numbers. All those months. All those "I love yous" and goodnight kisses. All while he was systematically stealing from me. "There's more," Maya said gently. "The credit card statement you found? That's not the only one. He has 3 credit cards you don't know about. Total debt on them is about $47,000. Fancy dinners, hotels, jewelry, weekend trips. He's been financing this affair with your shared money and racking up debt he probably planned to stick you with in the divorce. Can we prove all this? Every single transaction. I'm building a complete financial profile. Bank statements, credit reports, transfer records. When we're done, we'll have a paper trail that shows exactly what he's been doing." I nodded slowly. "What else do we need?" "We need to know more about Vanessa. Who she is, where she works, how long this has been going on. And we need to protect your assets before he can do any more damage. I can't just move money around. He'll notice." Maya smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. It was the smile of someone who was very good at her job. "You don't move the money. You make it look like normal business expenses. The gallery has operating costs, right? Equipment upgrades, building maintenance, art acquisitions. We create legitimate expenses that move money into protected accounts. Accounts he doesn't know about and can't touch. How long will this take? A few weeks if we're careful. Emma, I know this is hard. I know you want to confront him right now and burn his world down. But patience is how we win this. We document everything. We build an airtight case. And when we're ready, we destroy him legally, financially, and professionally. No way for him to recover." I took a deep breath. "Okay, let's do it." Building the case. That week, I became an actress in my own life. Every morning, I woke up and played the role of Emma, the trusting wife. I smiled. I chatted about mundane things. I asked about his day. Daniel never suspected a thing. But while I played my part, I was also taking action. Maya introduced me to a private investigator named Robert Chen. He was in his early 50s, with kind eyes and a quiet competence that immediately put me at ease. "Mrs. Clark," he said at our first meeting in a small cafe far from my usual neighborhood. I've reviewed the information Maya provided. I can help you, but I need to be honest about what this will involve. Following people, documenting behavior, digging into backgrounds. It's not pleasant work. Neither is finding out your husband is trying to steal your life's work, I said. He nodded. Fair enough. Let's start with Vanessa. I'll need whatever information you have about her. I showed him the photos from Daniel's secret phone, photos I'd carefully transferred to my own device. Her name is Vanessa Mitchell. She's some kind of colleague of his, I think. Robert studied the images. I'll find out everything. Where she works, where she lives, how long this affair has been going on, whether she knows he's married. Give me a week. While Robert investigated, I had my own work to do. The gallery had been my mother's dream before it became mine. She died 3 years ago, leaving me the business in a trust that protected it from creditors, lawsuits, and apparently, scheming husbands. I made an appointment with the attorney who'd set up the trust. His name was Gerald Morrison, and he'd known my mother for 30 years. Emma, he said warmly when I entered his office. I haven't seen you since your mother's funeral. How are you holding up? I'm managing, I said. Gerald, I need to ask you about the gallery trust. My husband seems to think that in a divorce, he could claim part ownership of the business. Gerald's expression shifted from warm to professional. Is there something you need to tell me? I told him everything. When I finished, he sat back in his chair and shook his head. Emma, your mother set up that trust specifically to protect you. The gallery is yours, period. Any money Daniel contributed over the years would be considered gifts, not investments. He has absolutely no legal claim to the business. He doesn't know that. Then I suggest you let him continue not knowing. If he tries to claim the gallery in a divorce proceeding, he's going to look very foolish in front of a judge. Especially if, he paused, especially if there's evidence of financial misconduct on his part. There is. A lot of it. Gerald leaned forward. Emma, I know this is painful, but you're doing exactly the right thing. Document everything. Build your case. And when you're ready to file for divorce, you come to me first. I don't usually handle family law, but for you, and for your mother's memory, I'll make an exception. I'll recommend the best divorce attorney in Seattle, and together we'll make sure you're protected. The truth about Vanessa. Robert Chin called me exactly 1 week later. Can you meet me at the same cafe? I have information you need to see. When I arrived, he had a folder waiting. A thick folder. Vanessa Mitchell, he said, opening it. 28 years old. Junior architect at Morrison & Associates. She's been working there for 3 years. The affair with your husband started approximately 2 years ago. 2 years. 2 years of lies. She knows he's married, Robert continued. I have proof of that. Text messages where she specifically references you. She's not some innocent girl who got swept up in romance. She knows exactly what she's doing. He slid a photo across the table. Vanessa and Daniel at a restaurant, holding hands. This was taken last Tuesday. The same night he told you he was working late. What else? I asked, my voice surprisingly steady. She's expensive. Her apartment is beyond what a junior architect should be able to afford. Designer clothes, luxury car, high-end lifestyle. Your husband has been funding all of it. With my money. With your money, Robert confirmed. But here's where it gets interesting. Vanessa has been posting about the relationship on a private social media account. Photos, status updates, plans for the future. She's not careful about digital security. He showed me his phone. The posts made me feel sick. Pictures of gifts Daniel had given her. Pictures of them together on weekend trips. A post from 3 months ago that said, "Can't wait until he's finally free and we can start our real life together." This is all admissible. I asked. Every bit of it. And Emma, there's more. I did some digging into Daniel's work situation. Morrison & Associates has a strict policy against workplace relationships, especially between senior and junior employees. If the firm found out about this affair, Daniel could face serious professional consequences, possibly termination. I looked at all the evidence spread across the table. Photos, documents, financial records, social media posts. The complete story of my husband's betrayal, laid out in black and white. What do you want to do with this information? Robert asked gently. I want to finish building the case, I said. And then I want to show Daniel that underestimating me was the biggest mistake of his life. The gallery's transformation. While I gathered evidence, I also prepared for my future. A future without Daniel. The gallery had been doing well, but I'd been conservative with my business decisions. Safe. Always checking with Daniel. Always getting his opinion, even though the business was legally mine. No more. I started making bold moves. I signed 3 new artists whose work was edgy and controversial. I planned a major exhibition for 6 months out, a show that would put Clark Contemporary on the map as one of the most important galleries on the West Coast. I also started quietly liquidating joint assets. The vacation home we owned in Oregon? I convinced Daniel we should sell it. The market is great right now, I said sweetly. We could make a nice profit. He agreed without suspicion. Why wouldn't he? He thought I was clueless. The profit from that sale, $340,000, went into an account he didn't know existed. An account that was solely in my name, protected, untouchable. I sold the art pieces we'd collected together over the years. Each one went for top dollar. Daniel barely noticed. He was too busy with Vanessa to pay attention to what was happening in his own home. Maya helped me create a complex web of legitimate business expenses that moved money into safe places. Equipment upgrades for the gallery, renovations, art acquisitions, everything documented, everything legal, everything protected. You're good at this, Maya said one afternoon as we reviewed the latest transfers. I've been running a business for 15 years, I replied. I know how to manage money. I just never thought I'd have to hide it from my own husband. Sophie, my assistant at the gallery, noticed the changes. Emma, she said one day, you seem different lately. More? I don't know. More powerful. I smiled. I'm just finally becoming who I was always meant to be. The performance. The hardest part wasn't gathering evidence or moving money. The hardest part was living with Daniel every day, pretending everything was normal. He'd come home late, smelling like Vanessa's perfume, and I'd ask how his day was. He'd lie about working late, and I'd nod sympathetically. He'd tell me he loved me, and I'd say it back, the words tasting like ash in my mouth. But I was learning things. Important things. I learned that Daniel talked in his sleep. Sometimes he'd mumble Vanessa's name. Sometimes he'd say things like soon and almost free. I learned that he'd been meeting with his lawyer, Richard Thornton, every week. I knew this because Robert had started following him. I learned that Daniel had opened a bank account in the Cayman Islands. Maya found it through her financial investigation. He was planning to hide money offshore. Every piece of information was another nail in his coffin. One evening, about 6 weeks after I discovered the truth, Daniel came home in a particularly good mood. Great news, he said, pouring himself a scotch. I'm getting a huge bonus this year. The Morrison project came in under budget and ahead of schedule. That's wonderful, honey, I said, chopping vegetables for dinner. We should celebrate. Actually, he said, and I could hear the calculation in his voice. I was thinking I should invest the bonus. Put it somewhere safe. Build our future. Our future. He meant his future with Vanessa. Whatever you think is best, I said. You're so much better with financial planning than I am. I watched his face relax. He thought I was stupid. He actually thought I had no idea what was happening. You know, Emma, he said, coming up behind me and putting his hands on my shoulders. You're a good wife. I know I haven't been around much lately. Work has been crazy, but I appreciate you. I kept chopping vegetables, the knife moving precisely, rhythmically. I appreciate you too, Daniel. He kissed the top of my head and walked away, probably to text Vanessa about how easy this was all going to be. That night, lying in bed next to him, I thought about revenge. Not the hot, angry kind. The cold, calculated kind. The kind that ruins someone completely, legally, perfectly. Daniel thought he was playing me. He had no idea that I was playing him better. The setup. 2 months after discovering the affair, everything was in place. Maya had documented every financial crime. Robert had evidence of the affair that would stand up in any court. Gerald had briefed me on the divorce process and introduced me to the best family law attorney in Seattle, a woman named Patricia Huang who had a reputation for destroying cheating spouses in court. Emma, Patricia said at our first meeting, I've reviewed everything. The trust documents, the financial evidence, the affair documentation. This is one of the strongest cases I've ever seen. When we file for divorce, your husband is going to be in serious trouble. Not yet, I said. Patricia raised an eyebrow. Why wait? Because I want him to file first. That's unusual. Most people want to have control of the proceedings. I want him to think he has control, I explained. I want him to file his papers, make his claims, show his hand. Then we'll show ours. The reversal will be more complete that way. Patricia smiled slowly. You've really thought this through. I've had time. That evening, I did something risky. I left divorce papers where Daniel would find them. Not real papers, fake ones that Maya and I had created. Papers that made me look desperate and legally vulnerable. Papers that suggested I thought the gallery could be split in the divorce. I left them in my desk drawer, partially hidden under some files. The drawer I knew Daniel snooped through when I wasn't home. Robert had installed tiny cameras in our house. I watched on my phone as Daniel came home early, went into my office, and found the papers. His face lit up. He immediately called Richard, his lawyer. She's already thinking about divorce, he said. But get this, she thinks I have a claim to the gallery. She has no idea about the trust structure. This is perfect. We need to file now, before she figures it out. Catch her off guard. 3 days later, I was at the gallery when a process server arrived. Emma Clark, he asked. Yes. You've been served. He handed me the papers and walked away. Sophie rushed over, concerned. Emma, what is it? I opened the envelope and pretended to read the divorce papers for the first time. I even managed to make my hands shake. Daniel is divorcing me, I whispered. He's trying to take the gallery. Sophie hugged me while I fake cried on her shoulder. But inside, I was smiling. The trap was set, and Daniel had walked right into it. The courthouse felt cold, sterile. Everything was gray and official, smelling of old paper and broken promises. I sat next to Patricia Huang, my hands folded calmly in my lap, while across the room Daniel sat with his lawyer, Richard Thornton. Daniel looked confident. Too confident. He wore his best suit, the navy one I'd bought him for our 10th anniversary. He kept glancing at me with what I think he believed was sympathy. Poor Emma. Poor confused, heartbroken Emma who was about to lose everything. Richard Thornton was a slick lawyer with perfect hair and an expensive watch. He'd built his career on helping wealthy men divorce their wives and keep their money. He was good at what he did, but he'd never met Patricia Huang. The judge, Honorable Margaret Westbrook, was a no-nonsense woman in her 60s who looked like she'd seen every trick in the book. She reviewed the initial filings with a slight frown. Mr. Thornton, she said, your client is seeking 50% ownership of Clark Contemporary Gallery, claiming it was built during the marriage with his financial support. Is that correct? Yes, Your Honor, Richard said smoothly. My client has invested substantial sums into the gallery over the 15 years of the marriage. He's provided both direct financial support and business guidance. The gallery's success is due in large part to his contributions. Mrs. Clark, the judge turned to me. How do you respond to this claim? Patricia stood. Your Honor, if I may. Mrs. Clark disputes these claims entirely. However, we're still gathering financial documentation. We request a continuance of 30 days to prepare our full response. I saw Daniel's face light up. He thought we were stalling because we had no defense. He thought we were scared. The judge granted the continuance. As we left the courtroom, I heard Richard tell Daniel, this is going perfectly. They have nothing. In 30 days, we'll present our evidence, and the gallery will be yours. Daniel actually looked at me with pity as we passed in the hallway. Emma, he said softly, this doesn't have to be ugly. If you just agree to split things fairly, we can avoid dragging this out. I'll think about it, I said, my voice small and defeated. Patricia had to grip my arm to keep from laughing. The investigation goes public. That night, I met with my team, Maya, Robert, Patricia, and Gerald, in Patricia's conference room. The table was covered with documents. Evidence of everything Daniel had done. Okay, Patricia said. We have 30 days. Let's make them count. Robert, what else have you found? Robert opened his laptop. Daniel and Vanessa have been careless. Very careless. I have photographs of them together at 18 different locations over the past 2 months. Hotels, restaurants, weekend trips. I also have evidence that Daniel has been charging these expenses to corporate credit cards, claiming they're business meetings. That's fraud, Gerald said. That's exactly what it is, Robert confirmed. I've also discovered that Vanessa knows specific details about the divorce. Daniel has been sharing confidential legal strategy with her. There are text messages where they discuss how much money they'll have once the divorce is final. That shows intent, Patricia said, making notes. This wasn't just an affair. It was a conspiracy to defraud Emma of her assets. What about the offshore accounts? Maya pulled up a spreadsheet. Daniel has been moving money to a Cayman Islands account for 8 months. Small transfers, usually 5 to 10,000 at a time, always from joint accounts. Total amount moved, $137,000. I felt sick. That was my money. Money from my business, my savings, the life I'd built. Can we recover it? I asked. All of it, Maya said firmly. And we can prove he did it with fraudulent intent. He was hiding marital assets, preparing for the divorce. That's going to make a judge very angry. Patricia smiled. What else? Daniel's firm, Robert said. Morrison and Associates. I did some research on their policies. They have very strict rules about workplace relationships, especially between senior and junior employees. If we present evidence of Daniel's affair with Vanessa, who is his subordinate, he'll be terminated immediately, possibly face professional sanctions from the architecture board. Do it, I said quietly. Everyone turned to look at me. I want them to know, I continued. I want his firm to know what kind of man he is. I want Vanessa's career damaged the same way she helped damage my marriage. I want consequences. Patricia nodded slowly. We can do that. But Emma, once we start this, there's no going back. Daniel is going to realize he's in serious trouble. He might try to settle. He might beg for mercy. I don't care, I said, and I meant it. He showed me no mercy. He was going to steal my gallery, destroy my reputation, and walk away with everything. I want him to feel what I felt when I found that phone. I want him to understand what it means to lose everything. Then let's destroy him, Patricia said. The Empire strikes back. The next morning, Patricia filed motions with the court. Motions to freeze all of Daniel's accounts. Motions to investigate financial fraud. Motions to depose Vanessa Mitchell regarding her knowledge of marital assets. She also sent a formal complaint to Morrison and Associates, complete with photographic evidence of Daniel's affair with a subordinate employee. Then we waited. We didn't have to wait long. I was at the gallery, meeting with Marcus Chun about his upcoming exhibition, when my phone rang. It was a number I didn't recognize. Emma, it's Richard Thornton. We need to talk. Immediately. About what? About dropping this insanity before it goes any further. Your lawyer has filed motions that are completely inappropriate and all communication goes through my attorney, I said calmly. Don't call me again. I hung up. 20 minutes later, Daniel himself called. I didn't answer. He left a voicemail. Emma, what are you doing? Richard says you're freezing my accounts. You're investigating me like I'm some kind of criminal. This is crazy. We can work this out. Just call off your lawyer and let's talk like adults. Please. You're making a huge mistake. I saved the voicemail and sent it to Patricia. Her response, perfect. He's panicking. That afternoon, Robert called. Emma, you need to see this. He sent me a link to an email. It was from Morrison and Associates HR department to Daniel, CC to the senior partners. Mr. Patterson, we have received serious allegations regarding your conduct with a junior employee, Vanessa Mitchell. Effective immediately, you are being placed on administrative leave pending a full investigation. You are required to return your company laptop, phone, and access cards by 5 p.m. today. You are not to contact Ms. Mitchell or any other employees regarding this matter. Failure to comply will result in immediate termination and possible legal action. They suspended him, I whispered. They did more than that, Robert said. I have a contact at the firm. Daniel's been there for 12 years. He was on track to make partner next year. That's over now. Even if they don't fire him, his reputation is destroyed. No architecture firm is going to want someone with this kind of scandal attached to them. I should have felt guilty. I should have felt sorry for him. I didn't.